What's good, YouTube? It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boston community. Before we go any further in the video, like the video, share the video, comment in the comment section, subscribe to the channel. This particular video is going to be on the New Orleans Saints. It's official. Sean Payton has become the head coach for the Denver Broncos. The Saints still had Sean Payton's rights. I think he had, when he retired from the Saints, he had 2 years left on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. As a result, the Saints still reserved his rights. And in exchange for the Broncos to get the rights to Sean Payton, the Saints basically was able to make a deal to trade Sean Payton to the Denver Broncos. The Saints got a 2023 first round pick, which came from the 49ers to the Broncos. I think it's like the 29th pick overall, if I'm not mistaken. And they also get a 2024 second round pick. And in exchange, the Denver Broncos get Sean Payton and a third round pick. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of a decent deal on both sides. As a Saints fan, I was hoping the Saints could have got more in return. Considering like what the Raiders got for John Gruden back in the day. I understand it's a different day and era in the NFL. In addition to that, the Broncos gave up a lot to get Russell Wilson, so they don't have as many assets as some of the other teams that was vying for the services of Sean Payton. But that was the best option for Sean Payton in terms of where he wanted to resume his coaching career, and as a result, that's what the Saints. That's a deal the Saints made based on the assets that the Denver Broncos had, and in addition to that, I think the Saints want to, get a first round pick because they didn't have one. They moved up in the draft this past year to get Chris Olave and Trevor Penning. With them, giving up their first round pick last year, the Saints didn't have a first round pick. And plus, like I said, the Broncos didn't want to give up too much because in exchange for getting Russell Wilson from the Seahawks, they gave up their first round pick, which ended up being like a top five pick. So the Broncos didn't want to give up too much in this particular deal. Now that the Saints, was able to get something in return for Sean Payton, it's going to be interesting what the Saints do moving forward because the Saints are still somewhere between, I think, 53 and 59 million dollars over the cap. From my understanding, I think after they restructured Michael Thomas's contract, I think they're down to like maybe 53 million over the cap now. I know they were 59 million at one point. So they're gonna have to restructure a lot of contracts. Me personally, I think the first two people that if I was Mickey Loomis, that I would have tried to restructure was first Michael Thomas, which they did. So all that means is more than likely Michael Thomas won't be a Saint uh, next season. Either the Saints gonna try to trade him, which at this point he probably doesn't have much trade value based on his injury history. So more than likely the Saints are probably gonna end up cutting him. And Andrews Petey, another one, I would restructure his contract. Uh, now, at this point, the Saints' strength is their defense, defensive line in particular. So it seems as if the Saints are going to have to let go a lot of their defensive linemen. Marcus Davenport, he's a free agent. More than likely, he's probably going to walk. The way Trey Hendrickson did prior to him. So him, I think David Ayumada and Shy Tuttle, I think they are free agents if I'm not mistaken. I know for certain Davenport is. So more than likely, Marcus Davenport is going to end up, going. The Saints stay pretty deep on the defensive line. They got Carl Granderson. They got some other defensive linemen. So more than likely, it won't be a huge loss. And just based on, just how this past season played out, hindsight, I understand as a coach and as a fan, hindsight is always 2020. But some of the moves that, were made, just looking back on, I know with the Michael Thomas situation, you really couldn't predict him being as injury prone as he ended up being once he got paid. But I mean, you could have potentially taken that money and redirected into other places. Maybe some of that money you gave to him, you could have maybe kept Jack Rabbit, as one cornerback. You probably could have kept Kwan Alexander at linebacker. And just other moves like bringing in a Honey Badger. Instead of bringing in a Honey Badger, you could have kept C.J. Gardner Johnson instead of having to trade him, and now he's going to play for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. So, and the thing about it, as good as the Saints defense was this past season, I know at certain points during the course of the season they had a lot of injuries. However, C.J. Gardner Johnson, he gave the Saints defense a certain edge, a certain swagger. I know at one point early in the year last year when they had Marcus Davenport was healthy and Cam Jordan on the other side and David Ayumata and Shai Tuttle and Kwan Alexander and Demario Davis and having C.J. Gardner Johnson on that back end, it's like he just gave that defense such a swagger and such edge. It's like once they traded him and it became official that the Honey Badger pretty much was taking its spot. It was like the defense. They were good, but they didn't have that edge, didn't have that swagger that C.J. Gardner Johnson brought to that defense. So I think just losing him was a huge mistake. And with this upcoming draft, Mickey Loomis, he's going to have the same type of draft they had in 2017 when they got Lattimore and they got Ryan Ramczyk and they got Alvin Kamara. They're going to need that type of draft because, Saints are way over the cap. And, this where, trying to make one more run year after year with Drew Brees, this where it really came to bite them in the behind in hindsight because, I know, hey, Drew Brees, franchise quarterbacks don't grow on trees. So you had a franchise quarterback, you had Sean Payton. So I understand them trying to, make a push for a Super Bowl, and then another year make another push for a Super Bowl, and year in and year out. But the fact that you gave, excuse me, some bad contract extensions, you kept, Michael Thomas, which was understandable at the time because you had to keep him. But Andreas Pete, some of the extensions that they got to certain players and gave to certain players, it's coming back to bite them and haunt them in the long run. So the Saints, they're going to have an incredible draft, and more than likely going to have to let a lot of players go. So it's going to be imperative that they hit big in the draft. They definitely need a franchise quarterback in the worst way. I was hoping that they gave Jameis Winston a little bit more run, but it was obvious that they wanted to stick with Andy Dalton, and I think Andy Dalton more than anything, he's a game manager. I mean, he played decent at times, but I'm gonna be truthful. Me personally, I'd rather have Jameis Winston. Now I understand Jameis Winston, he struggled early in the season, but he was injured, and I think Jameis Winston would have been a better option in some of the situations they were in. Andy Dalton, he did a decent job managing the game, but more than anything, my preference would have been Jameis Winston. Now, what they're gonna do the quarterback position? From what I'm understanding, they're gonna try to make a trade for Derek Carr, which would be stupid to me because he's owed so much money. The Saints are already $53 million over the cap. So I wouldn't even consider making a trade for Derek Carr. Me personally, I would keep Jameis Winston, but after the way he's been treated the last couple of years, instead of him being the starter once Breeze got hurt, basically you gave Taysom Hill a shot, which I really can't knock Sean Payton for because basically you wanted to see if he was going to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees, which I'm not knocking at all. But this year, Sean Payton was no longer there. Dennis Allen was the head coach. So I don't understand why, they really didn't stick with Jameis Winston. They really wanted to go with Andy Dalton. So Andy Dalton was the guy, but I wasn't moved. I wasn't impressed. Like I said, I understand he's a game manager. I mean, he was the epitome of Charlie Checkdown in many instances. And the thing about it, it wasn't like he was in a Trent Dilfer type situation where, I mean, the Saints defense was good when everyone was healthy, but they weren't Ravens type dominant. Alvin Kamara, he was, they leaned on him heavily, but at certain points he was nicked up and he was injured. So he didn't have the weapons and the dominance around him just for him to be a game manager. That's why I think it would have been better if James Winston would have been the starter. But at this point, Andy Dalton is a free agent, and in addition to that, James Winston has 1 year left on his contract. But if I was him, I wouldn't even want to come back to the Saints because, he really didn't really get a fair shake in terms of, getting run. So the Saints are going to need to get a franchise quarterback. They need to make a lot of decisions in terms of who they're going to keep, who they're going to let go. In addition to that, which players they're going to try to get the restructure contract, so on and so forth. So Mickey Loomis has a lot to do. He has a lot of decisions to make. Hopefully they make the right ones, but the right decisions. You're gonna have to make the right decision in terms of who's gonna be the quarterback of the future moving forward. Are they gonna keep one of these two veteran quarterbacks and bring in a young heir apparent? You know, it's gonna be interesting to see which direction the Saints go in. And to be truthful, hopefully everything works out. Hopefully they have a much better season than they had this past season. Hopefully they make the playoffs next year. But to be truthful, based on what I saw this season here, I don't see it. Hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see how things play out. But that's it for this video. Like the video, share the video, comment in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you can be alerted anytime I post any new videos. Again, it's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Have a blessed, phenomenal evening. Peace and blessings.